Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Chantika NABILLA from TBI 3B, and I would like to explain about clause. Okay, what is the meaning of clause? Clause is a group of words consisting of a subject and a verb. Clause is divided into two forms, namely independent clause and dependent clause. Independent clause is a clause that can stand alone and is considered a complete sentence. Dependent clause requires another clause to form a complete sentence. Example: he orders something when he needs. He orders something is independent clause, and when he needs is dependent clause.
My name is Sadia MAHMUDA. I'm from TBI 3B. I will explain the use of clause. Okay. In English, clause is also known as a unit of grammatical structure next to the sentence in drawing and in the traditional grammar, which consists of subject and predicates. In other words, a clause is a group of words that make up a sentence in English which consists of a subject and a predicate into a complete and correct sentence. Clause in Indonesian is called a clause. In the Oxford Dictionary, it is also stated that a clause is a group of words which consists of a subject and a verb. It can be concluded that a clause is a group of words consisting of subject or subject and predicates that are correct based on grammar. Clauses are very important things for you to learn because in practice clauses are the basic elements of making sentence. This will make it easier for you to make simple sentence in English and master English basic skills with a mature understanding and mastery of clauses. Problem in making and assembling sentence will be very easy and fine, as well as in its application to daily dialogue.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Klara from TBI 3B. I will explain about type of clause. The first, independent clause or main clause. Independent clause is a clause that can stand alone. This clause is also called the main clause. The meaning produced by this clause is complete and intact, or the idea or ideas can be understood well, even without the accompanying clause. Example: I like apple. The second, dependent clause or subordinate clause. Dependent clause is a clause that cannot stand alone. This clause is also known as a subordinate clause. This clause still requires the presence of the main sentence so that its meaning can be fully understood. Example: because apple is the first fruit that I ate when I was a child. Next, subordinate clause or dependent clause has three types according to its function. Number 1, noun clause. Function as a noun or pronoun in a sentence. Example: I know what you want. Number 2, adjective clause. Serves to explain the noun or pronoun that is in the main clause. Example: the woman whose car was stolen was very sad. Number 3, adverbial clause. Serves to provide information about verbs, adjectives, or adverbs. Adverb in the main clause. Example: Klara didn't pass the exam because she didn't study hard. Thank you, that's my explanation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Yongki Ramadhan Putra from Group of Classes. So I'm going to continue the explanation about clause in our group. You can see from my PowerPoint, clause is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb that have a relationship. This relationship is crucial. A clause conveys information about what that subject is or is doing rather than simply being a random grouping of words. So if you take a look detail about the sentence, you will find a group of words that contain a subject and a verb. So that group of words will call clauses. This part maybe have been explained by Nabila in our group, so I'm going to continue the PowerPoint. So next, a sentence can have just one clause or it can have multiple clauses. So a sentence, any sentence can have just one clause or it can have multiple clauses. If a sentence just have one clause, it will call a simple sentence. Or if the sentence have a multiple clause, two or more clauses, it will call the compound or complex sentence. Or it could be a combine of compound or complex. It will call compound complex sentence. The only defining characteristic of a clause is that it must contain a related subject and a verb. So clauses must contain a related subject and verb. It couldn't be just a random group of words, just like the first slide of PowerPoint. A clause cannot be a random grouping of words. It must contain a subject and a verb. Clauses play a variety of roles in English, and because of this, there are numerous ways to structure and combine them. So, if a group of words that forming from the subject and a verb, and if you combine that clauses into a few or more clauses, that will call a sentence. And if you can write a good sentences, you can understand that if you can forming a sentence from just combining and mixing the clauses. So next, when you want to write a sentence that more than one independent clause, you need to combine clauses. So if you want to write a sentence that more than one independent clause, you need to combine clauses. For every sentence you write includes at least one independent clause. The other clauses in your sentence determine how you can combine them with your independent clause. So I'm going to explain the independent clauses first. So clause dividing into two level of importance. The first is the most important clauses in your sentence. It's called the independent clauses. The independent clause can stand alone in the sentence. It will have the subject and the verb, and if you divide it, just take this part of clauses, you will know that it could stand as one sentence, not if you just throw the other clauses in your sentence. I'm going to give the example next. So for every sentence you write includes at least one independent clause. So the independent clause is the most important clause of your sentence. For every sentence you write, it needs at least one independent clause to be to have to called as a sentence. If you not included the independent clauses, that will be called that won't be called as a sentence. The other clauses in your sentence determine how you can combine them with your independent clause. So there are other clauses in your sentence if you write the sentence with two clauses. The first is the independent clause that I have told you before, and the other is the dependent clause. Dependent clause just have a level of after the importance of the independent clause. So the dependent clause cannot be stand alone and need the independent clause, just like a main idea in your paragraph and the explanation sentence in your paragraph, just like that. If you just imagine that just like a paragraph. So these are some examples. The first is, I love drinking soda, but I know it's bad for my teeth. So you can see from the sentence, the first clauses is I love drinking soda. The way how you determine where is the clauses is, you can see from the comma or the see the structure of the clauses. If you find the subject and the verb in that some words, you can determine that is a clause. So the first clause is I love drinking soda. So this is the independent clause. Why it is the independent clause? Because if you throw these clauses and if you just write down just these 4 words, you can see that this could be stand as one sentence. I love drinking soda. The subject is I and the verb is love, and this is the explanation words. And the next is, but I know it's bad for my teeth. This clauses is combined from more words than the first clauses, but this couldn't be called as independent clauses because it also have the subject and verb, but these clauses cannot stand the idea if you just write down this paragraph. If you're not seeing the I love drinking soda, just see these clauses. You can see it is that this sentence is not good enough to call this sentence because you have just half of the idea of the sentence. So this is the dependent clauses because it depends on the first clauses. So the next is, Maria loved hosting dinner parties. Her friends enjoyed her cooking. You can see from this sentence is that Maria loved hosting dinner parties. Her friends enjoyed her cooking. You can see is that this sentence is forming from 2 clauses. Maria loved hosting dinner parties. Her friends enjoy her cooking. So if you divided these clauses and these clauses, you can see is that these clauses can stand as one sentence, and this also can stand as one sentence. What is the dependent clauses? You can divide these words. Maria loved hosting dinner parties. Her friends enjoyed her cooking. You can see this is in the big scale. This her friends enjoyed her cooking can be called as the dependent clauses of this sentence. And the next is, we danced until the band finished playing. They played until midnight. This also from 2 independent clauses. We danced until the band finished playing, and then they played until midnight. The first part of the clauses can be divided into 2 separate clauses. The first is we danced, and then until the band finished playing. We dance can stand as the independent clauses, and the other is the until the band finished playing can stand as dependent clauses. So this the 3 example I give you this in this slide is forming the 3 kind of sentences. This part is the simple sentences, the second is the complex sentences, and the third is the second is compound sentence, then the third is complex compound sentences. The next slide, a sentence can includes 2 or more independent clauses known as a compound sentence. In a compound sentence, the clauses are joined by a comma paired with a coordinating conjunction, a semicolon or a colon. This kind of combination is known as coordination. So a sentence that includes two or more independent clauses is known as a compound sentence. If the sentence just has one clause, you can call that as a simple sentence, but if the sentence includes two or more independent clauses, it's known as a compound sentence. So if you divided the sentence into a few part of clauses, and if the sentence have two or more independent clauses, that is the compound sentences. So that's all of my explanation. Thank you to listening the video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.